call that a genetic fallacy.
Yeah. You know what, but your roommate doesn't know what that means. So what does
That
it mean?
means just like it's argument, like a source of the problem.
The source of the argument
Argument.
is somehow relevant to whether the argument's any good or not. But it can't be, right? If I make the argument and it's no good, then Rachel makes the argument, it doesn't get any better. And if I make it, it's no worse than if Rachel makes it. Same argument.
Are there like specific terms that you want us to use? Because we don't have to say prima facie, but we should say like, are there certain terms that you want us to use?
No, I mean, not that I'm thinking of anyway. I can't think of anything like that. I mean, I asked the question in terms of what's prima facie objectionable. And all I want you to do is tell me which of those are prima facie objectionable, and it would be repeating the question to say, it's prima facie objectionable because, it's part of the question already. Question begging, I mean, in some cases, an argument is question begging because it assumes the very thing it's trying to prove. And so that's a nice shorthand once you've explained what it means. But you could just as easily say it assumes the very thing it's trying to prove, and it would be fine with me. I'm not looking for specific terms. When you get to pro-life, I want you to say that there's a problem with it, because it assumes that the other side is pro-death or anti-life. Like that seems pretty wrong. Same thing with pro-choice, anti-choice. And actually, people have started using those terms, right? You hear people refer to anti-abortion as the anti-choice view. But that's just a caricature, really. Those people aren't people who think that we shouldn't have choices, any more than you're anti-choice because you don't think people should be allowed to choose to own slaves. Right? It's not fair.
Can you go over abortion stops beating heart?
Sure. That was one of the earlier ones that I did. That's an argument that nobody who's not a vegetarian on moral grounds ought to be making, right? Because a beating heart, so does killing a chicken to have it for dinner stop a beating heart. The question is whether the beating heart belongs to something that has a right to life. So if you think that swatting a fly is morally permissible, then you better not think that abortion is wrong because it stops a beating heart. It stops the beating heart of a person is what they're trying to say, something with a right to life. But then they have to show that it's a person. They can't just assume it. More generally, I think a heartbeat is neither necessary nor sufficient for having a right to life. It's not enough to give you a right to life. It's not sufficient because if my heart stops beating, presumably you don't, and you have the defibrillators and all you have to do is touch my chest and you can bring me back to life, whatever it is, bring me back to health. You shouldn't be saying, well, I was going to do that, but then I realized his heart isn't beating, so he doesn't have a right to life anymore. That'd be weird. And having a heartbeat doesn't give you a right to life. Flies have heartbeat, but they presumably don't have a right to life. And if you think they do, I doubt you actually do think they do, but I still want to know why a heartbeat is relevant to the right to life. Why would that be important? What they're really trying to say is it stops the beating heart of something that has a right to life, of a person. But that they've got to show. Merely having a beating heart doesn't make you a person. What else? Yeah.
Just clarification about science is the good side is that the scientific knowledge to try to better understand. Is it to try to better understand
The point is, if we want to, for example, make a judgment about when a fetus turns into a person, we better know something about what it's like. And science is what tells us what it's like at various stages. So science is certainly relevant, but it's not dispositive if you can't find a right to life in a laboratory. I don't see how you'd be able to.
So it's good because it basically gives us background into development, but the right to life is too complex.
Well, it's just a moral question, and science can't discover moral truths without some kind of moral input. So if we knew that anything with a beating heart had a right to life, morally, right? That was a little piece of moral knowledge we had. And science would tell us that a fetus has a beating heart at a certain point and therefore a right to life. But that's because it's combining with some moral knowledge we already think we have. I don't think that's something we could know, actually, because I don't think it's true in that case. But anyway, so science is relevant to all sorts of moral questions, right? Trying to decide whether to give to charity, we need to know how much suffering there is, and what is it giving to charity, what alleviates the suffering. If you're trying to decide whether it's okay to punch your neighbor in the nose, you have to know that punching your neighbor in the nose might hurt your neighbor. That's just an empirical fact about the world. We know by gathering evidence, by observation. Right? Knowing that setting somebody's house on fire is morally wrong, you have to know that setting their house on fire is going to make it burned up. That's just ordinary empirical knowledge, We don't think of it as scientific knowledge because it's so basic, but that's what it is. Yep, Tim?
When you say, I'm not suggesting that abortion can be used for birth control, that would be helpful.
Yep. So the problem with that is that, that's one that has a good side, right?
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be used in place of birth control for reasons having to do with concern about women, right? Like it's more painful than most other methods of birth control. It's more expensive. It's more medically risky. Maybe more psychologically difficult for some women, right? That's the good side. But if the person is saying that somehow it's okay to have a couple of abortions, but don't go crazy, and what I want to know is why not? Because, if it's no worse than swatting a fly to kill a fetus, then why not do as many of them as you want? If it is worse, then why would it be okay to do one? There might be some things that are, morally objectionable if you do them too much. There probably are lots of things like that, There's nothing wrong with masturbation, but if you spend all day doing it, you're not going to have a life, and that's probably a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with philosophy class, but you wouldn't want to spend your whole life here. You never sleep. I guess we could get taken to eat. So, you were waiting.
That was actually my question.
Good.
But I have another question.
Thanks for sharing on that.
Sorry. And you finish A with, she certainly has a right to abortion, therefore all women do. You referring to the 13-year-old. How do we respond to therefore all women do?
So the therefore all women do part is this. It's that you have to assume something counterfactual, by which I mean something that's not true. Namely, suppose it were true that the hardship did justify abortion in the case of a 13-year-old. That wouldn't mean that it justifies it in the case of women who aren't facing the same kind of hardship, same level of hardship, right? Means it might be that there's some cases where it's just so awful for the person that abortion is okay in that case. That wouldn't mean that it's okay for everybody. I don't even think in the 13-year-old case it would be okay if the fetus is a person. But, you might think that there might be cases where, suppose we said it's okay if both the fetus and the mother are going to die without an abortion. It's okay in that case, right? Because somebody's going to die no matter what. Both of them are going to die. At least we should save one of them, right? But that wouldn't justify it in cases where it's, birth control failed and nobody's going to die, unless you have the abortion, right? So there you go. What else?
Oh, and to make the claim that the 13-year-old's life would be ruined, is that assuming like an exaggeration because you can't predict whether or not your life will be
I think it's an exaggeration to say that it's always going to happen. There might be. A ruined life is pretty serious.
Yeah.
And lots of people have unwanted children and then go on and have, life is long. Lots of things can happen after that. And they have, a lot of people go on and have satisfying lives, not ruined lives. So you get half credit if that's all you said, but you get full credit if you said, no matter how bad it is for the 13-year-old, that wouldn't justify killing it if it's a baby. So they must be assuming without argument that it's not a baby, and that's just what's in question here. Question later. What else? This is the way a review session should go, people having lots of questions like that. Slime. We got lots of information out last time too, but this is more efficient. Now that I've said that, everybody's going to be quiet. More questions? Yeah? No?
Well, it's about number 2.
Well, then you got to wait until
okay.
see whether there's more about number 1. And then we'll take forever on it. But are there more questions about the first one? Yeah?
When we use examples like that would be like killing a 5-year-old, or like killing a fly, or not killing a fly, the 5-year-old one. Do we have to then say, and killing a 5-year-old is morally wrong, or is that just implied?
I think that's implied. The point is that you do have to connect it up to the question at hand. So the idea is that since it would be wrong to kill a 5-year-old to prevent it from having a miserable life, then it would be wrong to kill a fetus if we're or to prevent it from having a miserable life, if it had the same right to life as a 5-year-old, the assumption being made then is that the fetus doesn't have a right to life like the 5-year-old. Right, so you need to connect it back to the fetus, but you don't have to tell me the obvious claim that killing a 5-year-old is wrong. Even your roommate knows that. I mean, unless you've got a really sick roommate, which kids have to be careful. What else? I mean, I've had one, but Barbara, my wife, had a roommate whose mother came to visit, so they kicked Barbara out of the room for 3 or 4 days. She had to come stay with me, which was fine with me. And then she went in her drawer and looked for a shirt, and she couldn't find it. She asked her roommate. The roommate said, "Oh yeah, my mother borrowed your shirt, and she liked it, so she kept it." Fuck.
For C, the end of C, it says the best reasons that we should prevent the horrors of back alley abortions.
Yeah.
Can you,
It's another hardship argument. I mean, back alley abortions means abortions that are performed under unsanitary, unsafe conditions because abortion is not available or because it's too stigmatized and so people have to hide in the shadows, stuff like that. And although that's a terrible thing when that happens, it wouldn't justify killing lots of babies to prevent that from happening a few hundred times a year, or however many times it happens. Right? It wouldn't be okay to, well, you know, lots of women are getting hurt. Hundreds of women are getting hurt by doing this, so it's okay to kill millions of babies to prevent it. If they're not babies, then you don't need the back alley argument. If they are babies, the back alley argument doesn't work. It doesn't help. Remember, this was all supposed to go back to Socrates, and he's not before for the test, but this was evidence that a lot of what we hear about abortion is nonsense. It's just true, I think. And I could have picked another issue. I don't think it would have been that much different if we'd done, you know, welfare or, you know, the environment or death penalty or all sorts of other stuff. Euthanasia. More on question 1? Hey, Noel, let's do 2.
I'm just
Was there a
still,
question about number 1 or no?
I'm just still like honestly really confused by like the difference between the two. Like,
Between what's the-
Moral realism and like irrealism. Like, I don't know. I just,
Okay, so moral realism is the view that there are moral facts. There are facts about what you ought to do, what you ought not to do. There are truths about that. And moral anti-realism says there aren't. So the moral realist might think that it's wrong to, you know, run over your grandmother with your steamroller. And the moral anti-realist thinks nothing's wrong. Nothing's okay. It's not that it's okay to do it, because nothing's okay. It's neither wrong nor not wrong. It just is. The realist thinks that it's wrong, or you could be a realist and think that it's okay to do that. You might be some kind of a crazy realist, but you could be a realist. So the realist thinks there are moral facts, the anti-realist thinks there are no moral facts. The anti-realist can still have values, though, and say, I'm against steamrolling your grandmother, or your mother, or whatever it was. I was pulling an example. That's the basic difference. One view says that morality is a realm of truth, a realm of facts that we might hope to discover. Maybe we can't discover them, but they're there. The other one says it's not. So consider, like, you think there are truths about what the best color is. There might be truths about what color you like best and what I like best. Is there a truth about what really is the best color? Or what really is, you know, whether, you know, General's chicken is really better than, I don't know,